Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video we are going to talk about array related functions, and these are the functions which are inbuilt in JavaScript and we could use them. Technically they are classified like map, reduce and filter. So these functions are like they are inbuilt functions and they are already there in the JavaScript as a part of the framework. So let's say if we have an array and we want to manipulate the values, so we could use these functions, that is map, reduce and filter. These functions, they automatically go through the individual value of the arrays. You don't have to kind of an iterate through a for loop or anything. The iteration is automatically done, and then we could manipulate each value based upon our requirements, whether we want to kind of multiply individual value or you want to kind of generate some complex string picking up with those values. So those functions could be used. So let's get started with actually seeing how these functions could be used for different use cases. So let's see these functions in actual demonstration. So the first function I'm going to use is the forEach. This is a function that could be used for a new way of iterating through individual values rather than the traditional for loops like for let I is equal to 0 or something like that. So here let's say we'll take an array which is, let's say, 10, 20, 30 and 40. So that's what the array is all about, and then we could just say array dot for each, and I could use a callback function which is an element, and then I could just use, I'm sorry, I'm not using the arrow notation. So here I could just use console.log element is, and you could just print the value of element. So if we just try to run this nodejs.js, so you could see it goes on to every element within the array and then just displays 10, 20, 30, 40 and so on. So that's a very simple for each method for an array. And sometimes if we use for each and we get an error called as undefined, so it means we are trying to use a for each function on a variable which is technically not an array, or it is something which we are assuming as an array, but it is something different in terms of a value. So that's normally traditionally the error would be. Now let's say the another function which is called as the map function. Now the map function actually returns you another array. It returns you an resultant array after doing that manipulation or anything. So that could be used for the map function. So if I say const result array is equal to, I'll say array dot map, and then I just want to go through the individual number, and then what I want to do is I just want to say return, then I say number into 2. So that's what I want to return. So now what is happening over here is we are going through individual element within the array, picking up the one element at a time. So you don't need some kind of an iteration. The iteration is already there. So it picks up 10, 20, 30, 40, and it is going to multiply it by 2 and then give you back a result array, which is technically another array in the form of a result. So if we just display the resultant array and we just want to print the value of result array, so if we could just see, let's just close this one, we don't need this, so that we could just see that output only. So node test.js, and then it gives me 10 into 2 20, 20 into 2 40, 30 into 2 60 and so on. So you see it is technically another array which is being returned. Okay, let's see the third function which we could use, that is called as a filter function. Now filter, as the name suggests, it could filter out some particular values based upon certain conditions for you, and then you could use that function. Now let's say I'll just want to use let array, let's use some another array which is cities, and I'll just use Vancouver, Toronto, then we say, let's say Las Vegas, some cities out there, and Calgary, right? So now if we want to use a filter function on this particular array. So what we could use is we could use the filter function, go through individual value, and we want to pick up only those cities where the length of the each city is greater than, let's say, 10 characters or 8 characters or anything. So what I can do is I can use a filter. So let's say we'll just use the same thing because it also returns you back a result array. So I'm just gonna use const result array again, cities dot filter, and then we'll go on to each city which would be there, and then within that I'm just gonna get the return, which is city dot length is greater than, let's say, 8 characters, something like this. So now if we just want to print the value of the result array, so if you could just see that, I'll clear this. So you could see you get 2 cities out there, and they are also in the form of an array. So it means the result array is going to be in the form of an array. It is a resultant array where you did the filtration, got those based upon that particular thing, and the resultant array is available to you. And the last function which we could use is technically the array dot reduce. So let's close this one also, and we are going to use the array dot reduce. So let's use the other function over here. This is the fourth one, array dot reduce function. So this reduce function also calls for every element, and it technically has 2 arguments within it. One is the accumulator and one is the current value, and we'll try to understand what is the accumulator and what is the current value. The current value is the value that is being picked up from the array, like starting from 0 to like going to the last element, and then the accumulator is actually like the kind of an operation which you are going to store on the top of that. Now if I want to do like this, so let's say I'll do const total is equal to, I want to sum up the array elements as the total of all the elements. I could use that array dot, I'll say reduce, and the 2 elements which I'll pass on 2 arguments, one is the sum and one is the number. Or so number here is the current value and sum here is the accumulator. So if you see sum is accumulator, which is just like keeping track of and adding the total of the current value and putting it into some kind of a result, and number is the current value. So that's the current value being picked it up. Now what we'll do is we'll use the arrow notation function, and then we'll try to use it over here. So we'll just say return, and then we'll say sum plus number, because I want to do the total of that, so I'm just using the sum plus number. Now after this, if I just want to use the console.log and I say total value is, and then you just do the total out here. So if you just run this function node and you say test.js, so you see the value is 100. So this gives you 10, 20, 30, 30 plus 30, 60, 60 plus 40, that is 100. So this way, except for the reduce function and the forEach actually goes from like a modern way of writing the loop. Reduce just gives you one single value, and the other functions, which were map function and the filter function, they return you some kind of a resultant array. So I hope guys you would like this video, and you might be using these functions already, or if you are new to Node.js, you would understand the difference between these functions which could be applied on an array. I'll be coming back with more videos, so stay tuned to the channel, and if you have not already subscribed, please do subscribe to my channel.